Okay, now we're gonna do the damn thing.
What is it, the 16th time's the charm to run? I don't know. I stopped counting.
Today has been a day.
It's been, yeah. But would it be us if we didn't have technology issues, at least at some point during our recording process?
Exactly. Yeah, so we tried starting our podcast much earlier than what it is currently at. It is almost 1 o'clock.
40 minutes ago we tried?
Yep. So Kelly's laptop was being a little B word. And
she's old, okay? This is a 2012 MacBook Air, and this sucker, she's a dinosaur, but I love her and I refuse to let her die.
Okay, fair enough. But
if you hear thumping, it's just the cat. We're at Carson's today, so we might have some kitty visitors. If you hear strange noises in the background, it's not the ghosts coming to exact their revenge on us. It's just Theo and Luther.
Yeah. Oh, the good kitty boys. But yeah, Kelly's computer decided not to connect to the internet, so thought it was a me problem, so went and checked some internet. My internet's fine. It should be, because I just got it upgraded.
So I restarted my computer, but then it decided to completely reinstall everything. So we've been sitting here half an hour with my MacBook reinstalling, so we just decided to use Carson's computer.
Yeah, so we pulled mine up, and then we both forgot the name of the recording site that we use.
So we are trying something new. So if the audio sounds weird or different, that is why.
But we're here. We made it. Things got weird. So it's on point for some weird
shit.
Wednesday!
Yay, segues.
We're keeping it on theme, though.
We are, it just fits us.
It is.
We're a little disheveled. I'm half awake. Yesterday was tattoo day, so my body's still recovering.
The world's on fire.
How about yours?
We're trying
That's
to
the way I like it, except I don't.
And that's the way, I like it, except I don't.
Please don't be on fire anymore. Unless we're burning down a certain part of the world, in which case, yay, fire. More fire. But let's not dive so early into topics that could get us put on some sort of watch list.
Yeah, nope. Not today.
Not today. I already Google enough things that probably put me on watch list when I'm researching for my books.
Oh, yeah, and doing research and stuff, just the weird questions that I've been asking in my Google search history. And this is a little morbid, but for one of the things I do for my job is when I get the newspaper is I look up obituaries and things, because sometimes patients of ours will have passed away when we haven't heard from them in a while. It'll work from there. Like we were saying, being on some watch list, I have to look up obituaries sometimes, or if we haven't seen a patient in a while, I will Google their name and obituaries to see if their name pops up.
Well, for my last book that I did, I had to Google obscure poisons that you can grow naturally. If that didn't put me on a watch list, nothing will. Because in the book, someone tries to poison one of the characters, and I needed to find a poison that they would be able to that they wouldn't know was in there until they tasted it.
Yeah.
Because they know yeah. So that was.
I know.
You know what I'm talking about.
If you know, you know.
If you know, you know. And if you don't, read my books, bitch. They're good.
They're pretty good.
I need to write. I haven't done that either.
Same.
But
all right. Well, speaking of writing, should we get into what we wrote for our podcast?
Let's do it. And I didn't write a whole ass book report this time, so it will hopefully not be a 2-hour podcast like last time.
I can attest. Her notes are significantly smaller this time. It's maybe a quarter of what she had last time.
Like third.
It's still less.
It's still lengthy. It's just not as lengthy.
It's okay. It's what you're here for. And if you're not here for it, what are you doing here?
Then I'm so sorry you stumbled into this chaotic, crazy nest of mess.
Welcome to the weirdness.
Maybe stay around. You might like it. Who knows?
Yeah. Alrighty. Well, my creature is making noise in the back.
Yes.
Should we get into our mythical creatures?
We should get into our mythical creatures. I don't remember who went last time.
I don't either.
I can go.
Okay.
So my creature feature, actually, I found because I ended up on the weird side of TikTok and was listening to a bunch of creepy stories and Reddit posts that people are reiterating on there. So the story comes from the TikTok creator Ashley Inc. It's Ashley with 2 E's. And she often reads like watcher submitted horror stories or like creepy stories or ghost stories. So I'm going to read you a little story, and then we're going to talk about the lore behind the story.
Ooh, okay.
Okay, so again, this is from a TikTok user called, the one that shared the story, her name was Ashley Inc., but I don't know who the original storyteller was, other than his name is Tim.
Okay.
And this is a local story, kind of, because it's from Minnesota.
Mine's from Minnesota, too!
Great, but I think, like, we always end up with something weird overlapping. But, okay, so this is the story. A man named Tim worked as a bartender in a town near Minneapolis. After work one night, he went to the gym, and on his way home, in the wee hours of the morning, he decided to stop by Walmart to pick up a few things. This is back when they were open 24 hours a day.
I miss those days.
I do. I used to wander them at night.
Literally, I have a roommate back in college. We literally went to Walmart at like midnight just to go look at fish.
And there was nobody there, so it was nice. You could just kind of wander and enjoy yourself.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You buy a snack, you walk around, like...
It was great. I miss those days, too. Bring them back. R.I.P. So, this is back then. So, this was obviously pre-COVID times. So, he was in one of the aisles when he heard a child's voice say, "Excuse me." He looked up, and at the end of the aisle was a little boy he guessed to be around 6 or 7 years old. Tim said the little boy was wearing plain clothes, but looked clean and well kept. While Tim was putting the items into his cart, the little boy walked up to him and said, "You're not going to need that." Tim looks down at the little boy and is immediately struck with dread because both of the boy's eyes are completely black. He said he looked like the kid was wearing some sort of contacts that they might wear as special effects in movies. He asked the little boy, "Are you lost? Where are your parents?" To which the kid replies, "Somewhere." Tim then asks the kid if he can help him with something, and the kid replies, "No." Tim looked around, attempting to locate the family or any adult or anyone in general, but the store is more or less empty with the exception of a few workers, especially due to the late hour, because this is like wee hours of the morning. So he tells the kid, "All right, come with me. I'm going to take you to customer service. Let's try to find your parents." I'm trying to be the good guy, do the right thing. The boy responds, "Aye, that will do." Yep.
That'll do, pig.
That'll do, pig. And takes Tim's hand. They walk together to guest services where Tim tells the lady working there that he thinks the boy is lost or has gotten separated from his parents. She tells Tim they will handle it from there, and so Tim leaves to check out with his items. While he's checking out, he notices the boy just standing at customer service counter waving at him. He finishes paying for his groceries and rushes out to his car in the parking lot. He opens the back of his car, puts his groceries in, and when he slams the trunk shut, he jumps in shock because the boy is now standing by his driver's door. Ah! The boy points to the car and asks, "Can I get a ride with you?" Tim feels alarm bells going off in his head. He does not feel it's appropriate, firstly, but he also is very surprised because he left the boy at the customer service desk. How did he get out here? Why was he let out of their sight? Before he can respond with anything, the boy says, "I won't hurt you, I promise."
Okay.
Tim notices in the light of the parking lot lamp that there's a strange reflection coming off the boy's eyes. He tells the boy, "I think you need to go back inside." To which the kid responds, "No, I think I'll go with you."
No, thank you.
Tim tells the boy he's not going to bring him in his car, and the kid continues to insist, saying, "No, it's fine. You can just drive me to the doors." The boy is persistent. Tim looks around, trying to search for any other car, any adults, literally anyone that this child could belong to.
Like, help!
But the parking lot is empty. He is the only one there.
Oh my God.
He's unsure what to do. He doesn't want to leave the kid abandoned because he's a little boy, like 6 or 7 years old. But he also does not want to let him in his car.
Yeah, no, like the moral pulling, like trying to do the good thing, right thing, but also like this is weird.
Something is not sitting right. But when he turns around, however, the kid has vanished.
Oh.
Tim, shaken, gets into his car and drives home quickly, trying not to think about the encounter. He struggles to sleep, and in the morning he ends up calling his girlfriend to tell her what had happened because he still can't get it out of his brain. And he's still very, very conflicted about leaving the boy there. But she responds by telling him that she thinks he did the right thing and that she believes he was visited by one of the black-eyed kids.
Oh.
Which is my creature feature.
Okay.
So we're going to talk about the black-eyed children.
That's spooky.
Oh,
no, thank you.
They're a phenomenon I've encountered stories of here and there in my time diving through the deep webs. And they're genuinely flippin' terrifying. Because they're literally just children. And nobody really knows if they're spirits or creatures or some say aliens. But the characteristic is they always are younger children. and they have solid black eyes, no white whatsoever, just completely solid black.
No thanks.
Yeah, no thanks. Like I said, I found this while I was on TikTok, scrolling as one does, and it made me think of our tarot card because we got the Tower, and the Tower is a signifier of impending doom. And these sightings of these kids are often a precursor to, like, bad things happening.
Okay, like a premonition, like,
yes.
hey, or a bad omen.
Bad omens, yes. So there are dozens of stories that circulate, but they all follow a similar pattern. They are kids with completely blacked out eyes that appear at either people's home or vehicles, knocking on their door and then insisting on getting inside. Anyone who has encountered them has almost immediately felt an overwhelming sense of dread. Besides the blackout eyes, these children typically appear normal. Sometimes their attire seems mildly outdated. And in extremely unusual instances, people have reported encountering these creatures with talon-like feet. Black-eyed children are possibly aliens trying to reach out on Earth. Demonologists believe they are children of the devil himself, and if you let them in, you're allowing the devil into your life. They want to enter your home to call their parents. However, if they make eye contact, it seems there is much more to the plot. Some people claim that these children have existed since the 1980s. However, most sources say that the legend originated in 1996 in posts written by a Texas reporter named Brian Bethel, where he wrote about 2 alleged encounters with black-eyed children. Sometimes some articles call them black-eyed children, some call them black-eyed kids, but more or less.
Yeah.
Same thing.
Same thing.
Same thing. The original story, as far back as we can find, says children, but same thing. They're a type of humanoid cryptid, urban legend, or ghost story, and has been very prominent since 1998 in the rise of internet culture. So this is one of the early urban legends that kind of blew up on the internet as it was becoming more accessible, which is probably how I ran across it the first time.
Totally. Feels like a story you'd find on, like, that old Facebook page of Creepypasta, like the original.
It's very much a Creepypasta-esque. Yeah, exactly. So they're said to resemble ghostly children in early teens or younger, and have the all-black eyes. They're believed to be quite sinister and terrifying, and can be dangerous to those who encounter them, but no one really knows what they are or where they came from. In most of the stories and legends, the children can be found near highways, streets, residential homes, where they will stalk passerbys or residents of their property to cause psychological harm. No members are currently known except for this guy named Josh Collins and his sister Emma Collins, and some friends who died of foul play while getting lost in the woods playing hide-and-go-seek with one of them.
Oh.
That's one of the more sinister versions of the story. On streets and highways, they're reported to appear as lost children or hitchhikers, only to attack those who stop out of concern for them.
It's like way to play into, like, oh, I'm a small, poor, innocent.
Help me, I'm a lost little boy, and I'm going to eat your face off. I'm surprised this didn't make it into Supernatural, because this would be such a good episode.
I was thinking about it. I'm like, is there a Supernatural episode?
I don't think there is.
No.
But it would be a good one.
Yeah. They missed out.
Although there is that one episode where there's the young boy possessed by the demon, and he kills the priest when he picks him up.
Yeah.
And you think it's the priest that's evil, like doing something creepy with the boy. And so, kind of, but I don't think it's directly related.
Maybe they pulled inspiration from it.
Maybe. I don't know.
But yeah, I'm surprised we didn't.
Because it's like a pretty popular, specifically this is an American urban legend.
Yeah.
It originated in Texas. So some argue the black-eyed children are ghosts. Other claims they're demons, vampires, or practitioners of evil magic. There's also some UFO lore to depict them as a human-alien hybrid. But some people just believe that they are actual children playing crow pranks on people. I don't think it's that.
No, that'd be a little extreme.
That'd be a little extreme. Many regard them as little more than myth, but they have grown in popularity due to their internet forums and kind of the access of just like all those, like, you know, when the internet first became popular and like you could access YouTube for the first time, like ghost stories and urban legends were a hugely popular like topic. So these were very much a part of that. They have done various studies to try to conduct into the history of black-eyed children and their sightings, but no one really knows where the first sighting was reported or where the urban legend really originated. There have been 2 movies, however, involving these strange creatures. The first was called Black-Eyed Children, Let Me In, released in 2012. It's a documentary-style film where an aspiring filmmaker investigates the tales of black-eyed children through interviews and paranormal investigation. But the second movie is coming out this year. It's simply called The Black-Eyed Children. It is a found footage horror film that comes out in 2025 by the same director who did A Stranger in the Woods.
Oh.
So it should be, it's like a major production kind of thing. It is a foreign film though. I couldn't figure out exactly what country it was filmed in, but it is definitely not from US.
Cool.
But it follows the story of a woman named Claire who takes a job at a summer camp in the woods. Upon her arrival, she finds all the children have disappeared, but then as night falls, some of them return. Dun, dun, dun. So I figured when I can find out where this releases, we might have to watch it.
Yeah, I'm down.
Yeah. So not a super ton, a lot of information on them, but creepy nonetheless.
Absolutely. I would be very, very terrified. One, I'd be like, why is this small child walking up to me in the middle of Walmart in the middle of the night? And secondly, what's up with your eyes, kid?
Right. And I think it's such a creepy ruse because, any average human being, if you have a small child walk up to you like in a store or at a park or wherever, is like saying I'm lost,
instinctually you want
to protect
if you're
them.
A good person and
you're
not a
more
creep.
than likely going to want to let them with you and help them, and then to have them be sinister and like, I don't know. In the story with Tim, like the way that it was, they being so pushy to get in his vehicle. Like, oh, well then just drive me to the doors. Well, just like it's just like what would have happened if he let that kid in his car?
Yeah, child. Air quotes.
Air quotes on
Air quotes on child.
Quote unquote child. Tiny creature.
Minion, alien.
Yeah, I don't know. Are they aliens? Are they spirits? From the like stories I've read, I get the vibe of like they might be spirits rather than like cryptids or aliens.
Makes sense. Like maybe it's like a child that's like whose spirit is stuck.
Yeah.
And they're like either trying to get help like legitimately or they're trying to enact revenge for whatever happened to them. Or
if, and this is going off on a bit of a tangent, if you are someone who studies like demonology and demonic hauntings, demon creatures will often present themselves as small children to appear innocent and to lure you into them. So if anything, I think they could be like evil spirits presenting themselves in an innocent way when really they're much more diabolical.
Just to be more trickery.
Yeah.
Seems very trickstery.
I can see that. I recently rewatched all of Paranormal State. I've been on a deep dive lately of like, oh my god, I forgot how good this show was. And so there's a couple episodes where they talk about that where like, oh, they say they're being haunted by a little girl, but they're being scratched and they're being attacked and they're being, oppressed, and then they're like that's not a little girl. Then little girls wouldn't do that.
Yeah,
little kids wouldn't hurt you. But interesting.
All right.
All right. What creature have you brought for me today?
So also Minnesota. We're going back a little ways, and we're gonna be learning about the Minnesota Iceman.
Oh, I've heard of this, but I've never like read the story.
Yeah, it was super cool when I found this. I was like, oh wait, because I also vaguely remember hearing / learning about it, like in passing, just over the years of learning about different like myths,
legends. Yep.
Yeah, because this also kind of ties into the craze when sideshows.
Oh,
we're super big.
I love a good freak show sideshow story. There's some really interesting ones.
For sure. So, the Minnesota Iceman is a cryptid that, like we said, it's shrouded in mystery. It's said to resemble a strange blend of Neanderthal and Bigfoot-like features.
That makes sense.
It was encased in a block of ice. This enigmatic creature was said to have been discovered frozen in Siberia and then later brought to Minnesota.
Oh.
Yeah. So I don't...
when are we going to learn that we find things either buried or frozen in ice?
Leave it alone.
Leave them there.
Put it back.
Put that thing back where it came from. Or so help me. Or so help me.
So help me. So help me. So help me. And cut.
Yes.
It's musical.
That needs to be a motto that people need to learn.
Put that thing back where it came from. Or so help me.
So help me.
So help me.
So help me. I've not watched it in a long time.
We found it in Siberia. We leave it in Siberia.
If you unearth a tomb in Egypt, leave that shit alone.
Leave it alone. It's probably the reason why everything's so crazy, because we've dug up so many things.
Yep. We've invited this shit.
Yep. There it is, guys. That's the reason. Alrighty. So, this figure, it was described as humanoid with thick hair covering its body and a distinct ape-like face. The Iceman's existence has been debated for decades. The legend of the Minnesota Iceman began in the 1960s when it was brought into the spotlight by showman Frank Hansen, who claimed to have found the frozen creature in ice. Hansen's story varied over the years, sometimes stating it was discovered by Russian sailors off the coast of Siberia, other times claiming it was pulled from icy waters in Vietnam. So, already off the bat being a little wishy-washy with it. What remained constant was the cryptid itself, a grotesque humanoid form locked in a perpetual state of frozen terror. The Iceman was housed in a refrigerated case, giving viewers a chance to inspect it up close in its icy enclosure, fogged with condensation and its eerie, lifeless eyes staring back.
Gross.
Yes.
Hey kids, let's go down to the sideshow so we can stare at a corpse.
Yeah. Let's go stare at it. Makes me think of
was weird.
It makes me think of that scene from Ice Age when they go into like the tunnels and Sid like kind of wanders off from Manny and Diego, and he just runs into like all the different creatures encased in ice.
Yeah. Yeah, sideshows, man.
Yeah,
there's a dark history there.
For sure.
That'd be a good topic for a future.
Absolutely. This kind of jumps into that, touches on that a little bit. Hansen had began touring the creature at state fairs, carnivals, and shopping malls across the Midwest, billing it as the missing link. The Iceman, it's like we already have a myth about the missing link, so it's interesting that he tried attaching that moniker to it.
That is interesting.
It's a choice. The Iceman quickly drew attention of cryptozoologists like Ivan T. Sanderson and Bernard I'm going to botch his name, Huvelsman, who examined it in detail. Sanderson, a British biologist, and Huvelsman, a Belgian-French cryptozoologist, initially believed it could be a genuine specimen, an unknown species preserved in ice. The creature's appearance, with its flattened nose, protruding brows, and bullet wound visible through the ice, only added to its chilling authenticity. Their claims, published in scientific journals, ignited a firestorm of intrigue and skepticism alike. So there's a bit of controversy that came along with it, so we're going to dive in to that here too.
Okay.
From the moment it was unveiled, the Minnesota Iceman sparked heated controversy. Was it truly a preserved specimen of an unknown species, or merely an elaborate hoax?
Dun, dun, dun.
Dun, dun, dun. Cryptozoologists flocked to examine the Iceman, with some swearing it was the real deal, pointing to its anatomical anomalies and the frozen blood beneath the ice of its potential proof of authenticity. Skeptics, however, dismissed it as nothing more than a well-crafted sideshow gimmick, possibly made of latex or taxidermy. Funny that
I can see that.
Yeah, I'd be like, someone taking like a
it
fake
wouldn't be hard to get like a monkey suit or some sort of costume
and just like maybe put some
stuff
wiring.
Pose it, freeze it in ice, throw some fake blood in there. I could see that.
Yeah, you could definitely craft it. There's ways.
It wouldn't be hard to do even back then.
Yeah, the back and forth with it went so far to the point that U.S. Customs officials got involved with it at one point, prompting Hansen to claim that the original Iceman had been replaced with a replica.
That seems sketchy. That seems, I don't know, man.
It was like, where'd it go?
Oh, it's just, I guess I misplaced a whole ass fucking body.
Right?
Whoopsie daisy. I must have left it in my other pants.
I must have put it in my other ice box.
Jesus.
Whoops. The Iceman's disappearance in the 1970s only deepened the mystery. Hansen claimed it was reclaimed by the original owner, a mysterious millionaire who refused to give a name.
$1 million. Just imagining Dr. Evil being like, I'll take that back, please.
Like it mine. The Iceman reappeared decades later, resurfacing in Austin, Texas, at the Museum of the Weird. It continues to be a focal point of cryptozoology debate. Despite the controversy, the Minnesota Iceman's legend remains a legendary figure among cryptozoologists and enthusiasts of the strange, whether viewed as a genuine cryptid or a masterful piece of cryptozoology art. My dyslexia keeps wanting to flip zoology and crypto around.
They're both hard words.
It is. A lot of weird letters in there. Mm-hmm. So, it continues to fuel debate, inspire investigations, and serve as a chilling reminder of the weird wonders that may lurk just beneath the surface of reality. The Iceman has also cemented itself as a staple in pop culture, inspiring eerie expositions and imaginations of those who seek out the weird and unexplained. For believers, it remains a potential missing link. For skeptics, it's a clever hoax, but for everyone, it's just a curious chapter in the tale of American sideshow lore.
Interesting.
Mm-hmm. So, what do we think? Real?
I think it's bullshit.
Think it's bull?
I was maybe on board. I mean, I'm always skeptical of anything that's like Bigfoot related because I maintain Bigfoot is the longest running hoax in history.
Yeah.
Sorry to all the Bigfoot lovers out there. I was even in a documentary about Bigfoot as a reenactor. Like, I find, but at this point, we would have found.
Yeah, I feel like we would have found something, or like remains, or something concrete.
Something concrete would have happened. I mean, unless we want to jump into the fact that Bigfoot could be a spirit who's appearing at random, in which case maybe a little more validity to it. But anyway, that's a whole other topic for another day. But you had me sort of bought in until it's a replica. Now I'm like, yeah, fuck, this was fake the whole time.
Yep. Like, he realized, like, oh shit, I'm getting caught. They're looking at this a little too closely. I need to come up
do not look at the man behind the mask. Yeah, it's a little too Wizard of Oz-y for me.
It's like how they put a replica Mona Lisa out for display sometimes, but or then they sometimes put the real one out, but you never know which one
is which. Yeah.
Yes.
We can't drive to my location because we have to hop across the pond.
Oh, we're going across the pond.
Right. I might be taking our card a little literal. I'm really proud of myself. I tied our card to all three of my topics this time.
I'm so proud of you.
You didn't, did you?
I tried.
I can tell by the look on your face. Like, I'm glad you did because I didn't.
It's kind of loosely. My one world kind of ties into it because it's like hearing things and like.
I'm intrigued.
Yeah.
I'm intrigued.
I'll jump in when it's my turn, but it loosely ties.
Mine is a literal translation because as soon as we pulled the tower, I immediately said, I'm talking about the Tower of London.
I knew
because A, I love English history. It's really interesting. B, I've been there. And C, it's haunted. So we're going to talk, I'm not going to go in super depth on, which is why I didn't do a book report. I could have because the history of the tower is lengthy. I could have been here for hours.
You would have talked the whole podcast.
I could have. So I'm going to do a very brief overview of what the tower is, how it came to be. But, and it's kind of dark, sordid history. But I'm going to focus on the ghosts that live there. So I'm going to give you a little information about the 13 ghosts that are believed to haunt the Tower of London.
Dang. Funny that it's 13.
It is funny that it's 13. So, yes, the Tower of London has played a prominent role in English history. It was besieged several times, and controlling it has been important to controlling the country of England. The tower has served variously as an armory, a treasury, a menagerie, the home of the Royal Mint, a public records office, and is currently the home of the Crown Jewels of England, which I toured while I was there, and it was very pretty, very sparkly. It is also the home of the Torture Museum of England, and it's in the same building.
That's a choice.
The Torture Museum is interesting. They have a legitimate rack from, like, the 1600s.
That's crazy.
That you can, like, touch. I didn't, because germs. But,
yeah.
You could.
No thanks. I don't need that kind of energy.
Yeah, I didn't want to bring anything home with me. Although I did leave a piece of me that day. I'll tell you the whole story about my tour of the Tower of London at the end of this. So, the zenith of the castle's use as a prison was the 16th and 17th century, when many figures would be fallen into grace, such as Elizabeth I before she became queen, Sir Walter Raleigh, and Elizabeth Throckmorton, were held within the walls. This use has led to the phrase "sent to the tower," just being kind of like popular vernacular, meaning like you're being punished or being sent to the tower. It's kind of like, we would say, like, you're going to the Chokey.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah.
Despite its enduring reputation as a place of torture and death, popularized by the 16th century religious propagandists and 19th century writers, only 7 people were actually executed within the tower before the World Wars of the 20th century.
Oh,
so it's got a dark history, but maybe not as dark as people like to believe.
Mm-hmm.
Executions were more commonly held on the notorious Tower Hill, north of the castle, with 112 occurring there over a 400-year period. In the latter part of the 19th century, institutions such as the Royal Mint moved out of the castle to other locations, leaving most of the buildings empty. Anthony Sullivan and John Taylor took the opportunity to restore the tower to what was felt to be its medieval appearance, clearing out many of the vacant postmodern structures. In the First and Second World Wars, the tower was again used as a prison and witnessed the execution of 12 more men for espionage. After the Second World War, damage caused during the Blitz was repaired and the castle was reopened to the public. Today, the Tower of London is one of the country's most popular tourist attractions. I can attest to this because it was very crowded when I was there. Under the ceremonial charge of the Constable of the Tower, operated by the resident governor of the Tower of London and keeper of the Jewel House, and guarded by the Yeoman Warders, the popular site is cared for by the charity, the Historical Royal Palaces, and is protected as a World Heritage Site. I personally visited the tower when I was in London in 2013, and can say, as you walk the ancient halls, you certainly feel as if you're not alone. Mm-hmm. It is creepy. You can feel it.
Mm-hmm. I didn't get a chance to go down to London at all when I lived in Scotland, but the way you're describing it, it feels very similar to the Edinburgh catacombs.
Yes. Yeah. Except for it's much more airy. It's more or less built in, like, the shape of a rectangle. Mm-hmm. And, like, there's building, like, each wall is thick enough where you could, like, house people. Like, it's actual homes built in within the wall. And then there's the towers on the corner, and then there's, like, buildings on the inside where you'd have, like, shops and services, like blacksmiths, and et cetera, and things like that. And now all of those, like a miniature city. And then now those have been converted into different museums. There's, like, the Torture Museum, the Royal Gems exhibit. There's, like, restaurants, and, like, it's very touristy, but it does give really good Renaissance fair vibes. It has kind of a similar open air public market aesthetic.
Gotcha.
That you would get at, like, a Ren fair. Cool. So it was fun. And they do still have King Henry VI, like, bedroom completely remade, so you can, like, go walk through his, like, living quarters.
That's cool.
Which I will say is, of all the places I went there, was the one that, like, gave me the heebie-jeebies the most.
Tracks.
And we'll talk about that a little bit in a minute. So, if you believe your legends, it is fairly accurate to feel not alone, considering the fortress is believed to be home to some 13 spirits. It's not surprising, considering the dark and violent history of the place, that some of those who met their untimely demise within its walls might still wander the land. So here are some of the famous faces you may possibly meet if you dare to venture into the tower. The most famous ghost is probably Guy Fawkes. Guy Fawkes was taken to the Tower of London after his part in a plot to assassinate James I at Parliament in 1605. He was imprisoned in the Queen's house and was subjected to intense torture there, likely on the rack that is now stored in the dungeons. People claim they still hear his screams echoing through the halls.
Dun dun.
Spooky. Another very famous ghost is the Miss Anne Boleyn herself. As ghost stories go, there are a few as spooky and as tragic as this one. When Henry VIII broke with the Roman Catholic Church to set aside his first wife, Catherine of Aragon, and became the supreme head of this new church, the Church of England, Anne Boleyn became Henry's second wife. 3 years later, Anne was accused of adultery and taken as a prisoner to barge along the River Thames in the Tower of London. Through the infamous Traitor's Gate, which I did get to see while I was there. It's now mostly underwater, so you can't go through it, but you can see it. Anne was beheaded on the Tower Green and laid to rest in the Chapel Royal, which is the parish church of the Tower of London. Some 40 years later, a soldier reported seeing a light burning in the closed chapel, and after climbing to the window to look in, the soldier said he saw the procession of knights and ladies led by a headless Anne Boleyn.
Oh.
Yes. Spooky. I mean, to be fair, like, she didn't ask for that shit.
No.
You know? And Henry was fooling around the whole time, so, you know, she flirted with the man once and off for the head.
Off what I had. Probably didn't even fully flirt. Probably just, like, looked at him sideways.
She probably just, like, was being nice because someone was being nice to her.
Yeah.
You know? She wasn't well loved in the court because she kind of inserted herself into his previous marriage and, you know, but was also, it's kind of a convoluted. Yeah. The whole history of Henry VIII is fascinating, especially if you see a picture of him, because that man was not
cute.
He was icky. He was kind of gross looking. And he reportedly, like, for most of his adult life had, like, festering wounds from, like, battle that never properly healed on his thigh, so he perpetually just kind of smelled like pus and infection. So he was smelly, and he was a drunk, and he was obese, and didn't bathe, reportedly. So, like, he just stunk.
No, thank you.
Nothing. All right, speaking of Henrys, the next ghost is another Henry, not Henry VIII, but Henry VI. He was imprisoned at the Wakefield Tower of the Tower of London and was murdered at the altar in the King's private chapel in 1471 around midnight. Henry's ghost is believed to still haunt the Wakefield Tower, appearing at the stroke of midnight. So his chamber was the one I got to tour, which was really freaking cool. They even had, like, his original bed.
Oh.
Somehow they'd found it, and, like, the bed frame, obviously.
Yeah.
They'd made everything else new, but the original bed frame and, like, side tables were still there, which was pretty flippin'.
That was really cool when they find, like, old furniture like that. Yeah. But also, like, how do you verify that? Like,
I suppose.
How do you know for sure?
I mean, unless it's been really there the whole time, maybe?
Probably.
But, I'm going to dig through. I was trying to dig through the day, but I couldn't get my phone to, like, load that far back on Facebook because I was in my office at work. But I will post some of my photos because I have quite a few photos from the tower.
Sweet.
And from the Torture Museum. So I will post some of those when I post this.
Yes, please do.
Very cool. So the next ghost is actually not a ghost of a person, but a bear. Henry III was well known for his menagerie of wild animals that he kept at the Tower of London, including a gift of lions or leopards from the Holy Roman Emperor Frederick II in 1235. He also had pumas, tigers, jackals, and an elephant from France, and even a polar bear. Yeah. It was like a really sad zoo.
Yeah.
Also, the tower's not that big to have that many very large animals.
No.
That was, yeah, it's sad. Visitors would come to the tower to see the creatures, with bear baiting being the most popular pastime, which we're not a fan of, but it was a very popular activity back then. It seems the horrors of this particular pastime are still heard today, and the ghost of a bear is said to appear from behind the door of the jewel room, perhaps a specter to guard the crown jewels. And the ghost of a black bear is also reported to appear near the Martin Tower. Past King Henry VIII era, so it was kind of chaotic.
Yeah.
They were very behead happy back then.
Chop chop.
For sure. The sixth ghost does not have a name. She's simply known as the Faceless Woman. In 1957, a Welsh guardsman named Johns was on sentry duty at the Salt Tower, and he encountered a shapeless form with the face of a young woman, perhaps many of the many women who suffered a terrible fate at the Tower of London. But she's one of the most popular ghosts and seen quite frequently. Just like a ghostly white apparition with a young woman's face.
Gotcha.
But, yeah. Number 7 is Margaret Pole. Like Anne Boleyn, the beheading of Margaret Pole, the Countess of Salisbury, took place on the Tower Green, which lies just to the west of the White Tower. Margaret Pole was 67 at the time of their death. She was brought to the scaffolding by Henry VIII, shocker, for the crime of being the mother of the Cardinal Pole. Cardinal Pole's crimes were opposing Henry's self-created position as the supreme head of the Church of England. And eyewitnesses say that the executioner on the fateful day in 1541 was a, quote, wretched and blundering youth who, unable to perform a clean execution of his acts, instead hacked at Margaret Pole's head and shoulders.
Oh, that's right. This is the one that, like...
Yeah.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Ooh.
If you watch The Tudors, which is a very, like, Hollywoodified version of Henry VIII's life. I love The Tudors, don't get me wrong. Jonathan Rhys-Meyers is a beautiful man. Nothing near what Henry VIII actually looked like, but it's a fun show to watch. They took this fate and put it on a different character. But yes, it was kind of a well-known, like, fact that if Henry really hated someone, he would purposely get the executioner drunk the night before the beheading.
Oh,
so they were too hungover to give a clean execution, and then they would have to hack the person at, like, multiple chops to get the head off.
Sabotage!
It was, yeah, it's awful.
That's cruel and unusual. And wow.
It was a dark time in England's history, but one of my most favorite parts of English history to learn about because it's just fascinating. Mm-hmm. Much like our faceless woman, the white figure is the 8th ghost believed to haunt the tower. It is protected by the Tower of London is protected by the yeoman warders, who are sometimes nicknamed the Beefeaters. Don't ask me why. Okay. And in 1864, their captain, J.D. Dundas, observed a yeoman, yeoman, I'm not sure how to pronounce it exactly, attempting to charge a, quote, whitish female figure with his bayonet. Chillingly, the apparition appeared in the courtyard where Anne Boleyn was beheaded. So sometimes it's believed like maybe it's Anne Boleyn, or maybe it's one of the other poor, sad folks that got beheaded.
Gotcha.
There was a lot of beheadings. You just kind of never know. The 9th is the monk. If you visit the Tower of London, you should listen for the sound of sandals slapping against the stone floors, reported to be the steps of a ghostly monk.
He's the monks. Hey, 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 he's the monks.
So, there were a lot of monks executed during Henry VIII's time because when he took over as the head of the Church of England, he wanted to get rid of any Catholic ties, so he killed a lot of them. So, probably where this guy came from. Ghost number 10 is the Lady Jane Grey, who became queen after the death of King Henry VI, son of King Henry VIII. She's known as the English Queen and has the shortest reign in history, a mere 9 days.
Oh, dang.
So, she might just be salty of like, that's all I got. Edward had named Lady Jane Grey as his heir in his last will, over his half-sister Mary, the Bloody Mary.
Ooh.
A pawn in the royal power games, the king's protector John Dudley had arranged for the 16-year-old Lady Jane Grey to marry his son, Lord Guilford Dudley. On Edward's death on the 6th of July, 1553, Lady Jane Grey became queen, a title she was held to hold just over a week before the council decreed that the Catholic Mary was the true ruler of England.
Like, no.
Yeah.
False news. You don't get it.
Lady Jane Grey and her husband Dudley were then executed on the infamous Tower Green in 1554. The white figure of Jane is said to haunt the battlements of the Tower of London to this day.
It's like getting hired for a job, going through all the training, and then being like, nah, actually, we changed our mind. We changed our mind.
Well, yeah, this is like the era of Bloody Marys, so there was that kind of like, Elizabeth and James were born during King Henry's rule of like the Church of England, whereas Mary was a Catholic born of a Catholic marriage. Prior to that, before they segregated from, so like there's that was a whole thing, like it literally, all of these deaths and all of these monarchs and people were killed for like over 100 years because there was a fight between the Protestants and the Catholics over who would control Europe. It's wild. If you ever watch the TV, it's again very like Hollywoodized, but the TV show Reign is the story of Mary, Queen of Scots.
Okay.
She was the cousin to Elizabeth I. And it is actually a really good show where it follows like her life and like what it meant to be a royal back then and like having to marry someone whether you wanted to or not to protect yourself and like it's a good show. It's very, I mean, it's from the CW, so that tells you kind of how like campy it is, but
they usually do it.
But it's an interesting one if nothing else. You get to meet Nostradamus in it, which is kind of cool. The 11th ghost is Arabella Stuart. This is an often repeated ghost sighting in the Tower of London. She was the cousin of Elizabeth I and was imprisoned by James I for marrying William Seymour, a nephew of Lady Jane Grey, without royal consent. Seeing this match as a possible threat to his throne, James placed Arabelle under arrest at the Tower, where she refused to eat or was purposely starved. We don't really know which. Her ghost is said to stalk through the Queen's house, where she maybe should have ruled. Who knows?
Tricks.
Yeah.
Like this was supposed to be my room.
Yeah. She's laying claim, even in her death. The 12th ghost is the young princes, so a duo of ghosts. On the death of Edward IV, Edward's young son, Edward, became
real creative with their
they
names.
were not, you're either an Edward, a Henry, or a James. Like, there's like 3 names they just
repeat.
But he became King King Edward V, under the protection of his uncle, the Duke of Gloucestershire. Wanting to take the crown himself, the Duke imprisoned Edward and his young brother Richard in the Tower of London. Their mother, Elizabeth Woodville, took sanctuary at Westminster Abbey, and after declaring Edward illegitimate, the Duke of Gloucestershire became King Richard III. Edward and Richard were never seen again, believed to be murdered by their uncle. The bones of 2 children were later found beneath a staircase in the Tower of London and are believed to be theirs.
Dang. You know how they found out who Jack the Ripper was?
Yes.
With like through DNA and stuff?
Yeah.
I wonder if they could do DNA testing on...
That would be cool because, I mean, the royal line in England is pretty...
It's pretty well documented.
It's pretty well documented and, like, pretty tied to people that are still alive today. There are descendants of even King Henry VIII still alive today.
Yeah.
That would be fascinating. I don't know.
Science. Let's
If
do
I
it.
was more of a science human, I'd look into it. But science was not my subject in school. Give me English and give me math. History and science? No, not so much. So the last ghost is probably the most interesting. It's simply dubbed the Nameless Thing.
The Nameless Thing.
Yes. The Nameless Thing is a petrifying spirit which follows the guards of the tower as they walk from the River Thames Sally Portal entrance. So it's literally just a blob spirit that doesn't take any particular shape, that just torments the guards.
Sounds like a poltergeist.
Yeah. Which, I mean, considering all of the negative shit that happened there, there's a lot of people whose lives were taken for really stupid reasons in that space. So, yeah.
That last one makes me think of this book that is actually my husband's favorite book, The Haunting of Elizabeth Crane.
Oh, that's a good book.
So good. And it's made me think of the enigmas and all the little creatures.
So maybe if we do ever go to Scotland, maybe we'll take a day trip to London and I can take you to the tower.
Let's do it.
Maybe we'll find my poor sad toenail. So, side story. I left a piece of me.
My toe.
Just a toenail. It was our very first day in London when I went. So we went for a week. We flew in on a Tuesday, and we got to our hotel fairly late in the day. So we just kind of walked through we were near Hyde Park. So we just kind of wandered through Hyde Park that day and then just didn't go anywhere.
Yeah.
But the next day we decided to traipse, and we still had not figured out how to use the tube station yet. It was being, Americans, we aren't used to subways. So we got very lost trying to find we were trying to see the changing of the guards at Buckingham Palace.
Yeah.
We did eventually find Buckingham Palace, but got very lost and missed the changing of the guards. But then kind of as the day progressed, we figured our way through, and then we figured out we were pretty close to the Tower of London after we went to some other place. I don't remember when we stopped for lunch. So we're like, yeah, we're right here. It's on our to-do list because there's set number of things we wanted to see. Because we wanted to do the Westminster Abbey thing. We wanted to see the Globe Theatre, which was really freaking cool, by the way. Highly recommend. And the Tower of London was a big one that I wanted to see. So we finally had figured out how to read the maps for the tubes and how to get from here to there, and we got the app downloaded on our phone, and we figured it out. And so we go and find a tube station, take the tube that gets us closest to the Tower of London, and literally, as we're going up the steps out of the tube station, my dumbass trips and falls on my face.
Oh no!
Trips over my own foot on the steps of the tube, falls on my face, and there's probably 50 people around, so it's embarrassing as hell. This sweet little old British man's like, oh my god, love, are you okay? And helped me up, and I'm like, oh my god, I'm so embarrassed. And I look down and my foot is just red.
Oh no.
I ripped off my entire big toenail.
Ah, nope.
Yep.
Okay. Alright. Info you don't need about me, but that is one of my phobias, is something happening to my nails, getting them, pulled back, pulled off. Anything involving the nails? No.
I lost over 50% of that toenail. Yep, it was just gone. And did I find it? Nope. It's somewhere in England still. And there was a very large pool of blood where I had literally...
Are you wearing sandals?
Yep.
It
was August. It was summer. So I had sandals on because I wanted to be comfortable because it was hot. And they're kind of Chacos. Okay. That kind of style where they're comfortable to trek around a little bit, and we weren't doing a ton of hiking.
Yeah, they're not flip-flops.
No. But so we're sitting there, at the Tower of London because, mind you, I don't have anything with me to, like, bandage this level. So I bloodily hobbled my ass to a freaking, little corner pharmacy, got a package of Band-Aids and some antiseptic cream, which you have to have an ID to buy there, apparently. It was weird.
Yeah, UK makes you do that.
So
you have to need an ID to buy a sunscreen.
Yes, that we brought with. But, so I'm sitting at the Tower of London, bandaging my fucking toe. And spent the rest of what should have been a marvelous week literally throbbing in pain because it hurt so bad. And, but I refused to give up anything we were doing. The one thing we did miss was we were supposed to fly to Ireland for the day one day. But literally the jet lag hit us so bad after that first day because it was supposed to be 2 days in England, 1 day in Ireland, and then 3 days in England.
It hits you hard.
And we had to leave at 5 a.m. to get our flight, and we just literally slept through our alarm and woke up as our flight was supposed to be taking off.
Yeah, no.
And so it was we were out I think at that time, this was 2013, so it was $175 for the flight. Bad. It wasn't expensive, so we were does it suck? Yes, we would have liked to see Dublin. Whatever. We're just gonna, instead, we just went to Hyde Park and wandered around for the day, and
there you go.
We fed the squirrels. I made a friend with a squirrel. The fattest squirrel I've ever met in my life. But yeah, so my blood is in the Tower of London.
There you go. Well, if you die, now you have an option of places you want to go haunt, because
I could go be buddies with Anne Boleyn.
Yeah.
That would be fun. I would fuck with people. It would be so much fun to be a ghost there.
You would make a very fun ghost.
Ooh. Yes. Yeah. So yeah, that's my story of the Tower of London, where I literally ripped my effing toenail.
No, thank you.
It was awful.
Oh, it's so funny that you injured your foot during a trip, because last summer, before Kay and I went on our our trip, I was doing a private lesson and I was demonstrating.
I went with you to buy toe condoms. At 9 o'clock at night at Walmart.
Yep, the toe condoms. Yep, because mine went up for my kick, came down, and
it hurts.
Oh, it hurts.
It's one of the worst pains.
You don't think it's gonna hurt that, but it does.
Oh God, and it bled so much. Oh my God, it was. So that was my experience. I was hobbling around, limping through the torture museum at the Tower of London after bandaging up my poor sad toe. And I have a photo.
I don't want to.
Post bandage.
No.
So you can't see it, but you can see. We took a picture of my foot, with the Tower of London behind it. Of look what I
did! That's funny.
So, yeah, I will make...
You're just contributing to the bloodshed.
Yeah, just, it was on theme. I will bring more appropriate footwear going forward when I go off on adventures.
Oh, that's funny.
Yeah. Yep. Clumsy as ever that's just who I am.
It's on brand.
It is on brand. I am a klutz.
Yes. Oh, goodness. Well, that was nutty.
That was nutty.
All right. Well, we're going to go from hearing and seeing ghosts and thinking we see things to maybe hearing things.
Okay. I'm intrigued.
We're going to dive into the sciencey side of things again.
Okay. I like when you bring me weird science stuff, because I never think to look in that sector.
I know, because I go in the more rhetorical side of the what in the world. What in the world was that?
Yeah. So, and I think that's what's great about this category is it could be anything.
Yeah. So I feel like most people will have experienced this, and what I'm going to bring up. Have you ever been somewhere completely by yourself, whether it's at home, you're taking a walk or something, and you hear your name?
Yep.
And no one is there.
Yes, many times actually.
Or even, I experienced this a lot when I was a kid, where I would think I heard my mom say my name, so I'd come downstairs and be like, hey, what did you need? And she's like, I didn't say anything. I don't need you. I'm like,
yeah, I have been woken up thinking someone yelled my name in my ear before. And it's the most unnerving experience.
Yeah. So we're going to get into that a little bit. So why do people hear their names when no one is saying your name?
Mimics.
That's a mimic.
Or flush pedestrians. I'm just...
You know what? Okay, fair. But this is not creature feature.
That's fair. Okay, if we were in creature feature, we'd be talking mimics and flesh pedestrians, but
Absolutely.
give me my scientific lesson for the day.
Yes, and so we're going to get into the scientific of it, and then we're also going to get into some weird spirituality belief, what people think is behind it, but it's not actually. It's very strange. Alrighty. So, this phenomenon of hearing one's name when either it's in the woods or you're alone is attributed to something called auditory pareidolia.
I've heard this term before,
Yes.
but never in this context.
This is a type of perception where the brain interprets random or ambiguous sounds, such as rustling leaves, or distant animal calls, or even like when you're at home, like noise from like appliances, like so the fridge, the stove, the electricity, house settling, electricity.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, things like that. Your brain, or it's recognizing it as familiar patterns, like voices or words. It's taking it and shifting it.
Yeah, okay, so that's where I've heard this before, is pareidolia. I've heard it in the sense of, like, when you're visually seeing something and you see faces and things that aren't there.
Yes,
so,
exactly.
Okay,
so
that's
when you
why
see
I've heard
Jesus on the bread,
it's just pareidolia.
it's pareidolia.
Okay, that's why I was like, I know this term sounds familiar, and that's why.
Exactly. Yep. It's like
Seeing shapes in the darkness.
Exactly.
And your brain's trying to make sense of what you're seeing.
Yep. So the auditory pareidolia, it's a subset, and it's a broader
ability. One of them is clairaudience.
Yeah. People with this ability often hear things that others cannot. They have a heightened sense of awareness and are highly intuitive when it comes to receiving messages in this manner. When you hear your name being called out, but no physical person is spoken, it could be because you're hearing a message from the spirit or angelic word. You're having a prophecy given to you.
Sounds like one of those, like, tent revival people have been like, I hear the spirits calling to me.
I hear the name of Jesus being
it feels like, yeah. I was like, oh, someone would use that as, like, a weird way to manipulate.
Is there a John in the house tonight? I hear your name being called.
The angels are speaking to me.
Yep.
No, maybe you're just schizophrenic.
Maybe.
It's okay. We can help.
We can help with that. But yeah, the reason why the name, or specifically hearing your name, is like kind of tied into this is because your name is such a strong part of your identity. Spiritual beings will use your name as a means to get your attention, because you're more likely to respond to that than just, hey you.
I don't know, if someone's yelling hey in the middle of my empty house, I'm gonna respond.
That's fair.
I'm not gonna respond, I'm gonna react. I'm not going to respond, because we don't respond when things call out to us that aren't there.
Mm-hmm. You know, they're gonna have a hard time with me though, because I'm not gonna hear them.
They'll be like, hello, hey, Carson, hey.
And they're gonna look at me like, oh shit, her hearing aids aren't in.
Hearing aids are not, try again later. She forgot her charger again.
Of others, which was absolutely crucial for survival. So imagine you're like a early
nomadic.
Yeah, early nomadic person. You're out. You need to be able to hear what's going on in your environment to like pick up like, okay,
is that rustling a bunny rabbit or a bear about to bite my face off?
Literally.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Exactly. The heightened sensitivity to auditory cues likely led to the development of mechanisms to prioritize the perception of speech-like sounds, even in ambiguous or noisy environments. So, funny thing that kind of ties into this, a lot of people that I know, and I myself, have tinnitus, which is the high-pitched ringing in it. So, that can come from your brain trying to make sound to replace it when you're in a quiet zone, because your brain is seeking that stimuli, and if it's nothing there to feed it, your brain can create that noise.
I've had that experience where like you're in a super quiet room and then it sounds like almost like ringing.
Yeah. Yep. It's because your brain is actively seeking that stimuli, or trying to replace it. Yep. But there's nothing there.
That's when it's like it's too quiet. I need noise.
Exactly. Yeah. And it's more common or prevalent to happen in those quiet environments, because then there's nothing there to kind of like mask it.
There's no auditory stimuli for your brain.
Yeah. Unfortunately, there is some people that perceive their tinnitus a lot more intense, even when there is outside external stimuli to try and mask it, which is where certain treatments and things can come into play, which we do at my clinic, which is super cool and fun to to learn about.
You and your ear fascination.
It's great. It's almost like I'm going to school for it or something.
Almost like it's part of your life. Yeah.
I know. It's kind of like almost like I don't want to understand why my ears don't work.
Genetics.
Genetics. Yeah. So the brain has the tendency to fill in the blanks with familiar patterns, even if they aren't present, and is like a statement to the brain's efficiency in processing auditory information.
Oh. Okay.
Yeah.
That's
So when
cool.
you're kind of like hearing things, it's like your brain heard a noise. It doesn't understand what it is, so it's trying to take info of what you already know and already familiar with to try and make sense of it.
That's really interesting.
Yeah. So hearing your name in solitude and by yourself can definitely be kind of unsettling, but usually it's not a cause for concern. This experience is more common among individuals with or without psychiatric conditions. However, if perceptions occur in complete silence or are accompanied by other symptoms, it may indicate a more serious issue, such as auditory hallucinations that can tie into other mental health disorders. In that case, definitely consult professionals and check out, rule out other things.
Or it's a ghost.
Or it's a ghost. You never know. Or it's an angel trying to talk to you. Be like, hey.
Doubt it.
No. Yeah, so, in summary, hearing your name in the woods or at home when no one else is there, it's pretty harmless. And it's just your brain.
You're in Appalachia.
Yeah, unless you're in the Appalachians. Yeah.
Then pretend you heard nothing and walk quickly home.
Just go. Just turn around, go home. Go home.
You heard nothing, you saw nothing, but go home.
Yep. So, really, it's just your brain's ability to recognize patterns, and it's just trying to fill in the blanks.
Interesting. That is both fascinating and terrifying.
Yeah. It's just that
Like, our brains are wild.
our brains are very, very strange. It's almost like in the same way when someone is like talking and you think you know what's coming next, so you kind of like fill in the blank for them. It's like your brain is trying to
It's always trying to logic everything.
Exactly. It's kind of, I feel like this almost ties into anxiety a little bit.
Yeah.
Because your brain's like trying to figure out what's...
I don't have the information. I need the information. Fill it in.
Exactly. Yeah. So then you
Yeah.
spiral and go down all these rabbit holes of what ifs.
That makes sense. Yeah. I feel like it'd be a really interesting, like, case study. It'd be kind of hard to do, but like, if people who are more neurodivergent would experience things like this more frequently than people who aren't. Like, because I feel like neurodivergent brains are constantly in hyperdrive.
Yes.
And so, like, possibly doing more of this kind of, like, it would just be interesting to see, like, the connection between, like, the frequency of experiences of this or, like, being perceptive of ghosts, being perceptive, like, more sensitive to the supernatural, paranormal.
Yeah.
And then, like, the connection to neurodivergency.
That would be a fun study. All right. I'm good. Stow that away.
If you ever become a research scientist.
Yeah, you never know. There we go. Got my topic, guys. I call dibs. Can't steal it now.
Your doctoral thesis is coming
Exactly. There we go. When my PhD comes around, there we go. This will be my research project.
It's going to have to be you, because I would rather cut off my own foot than go back to school. I am good with my 1 degree.
Fair enough.
No more.
Fair enough.
Yeah. Well, all right. Should we move on to our final category?
Let's do it.
Alrighty. I have kind of a fun one. I struggle because I technically have 2 creatures that we're going to talk about.
Okay.
But this one does tie into more of a true story, murder story.
Okay.
So I decided to make it my spooky spotlight.
Spooky story.
But it all starts with a film, actually, that's pretty well known. It was produced and directed by Clint Eastwood, and stars Angelina Jolie.
Okay.
It's from 2008, and it is a thriller horror film.
I'm trying to like rack my brain at like movies I've seen from that fit that category, and I'm blanking on names.
It is the movie called Changeling.
Never seen it.
It's not
Great.
I mean, it's like on par for like 2008 thriller horror,
kind of cheesy, cheesy campy.
I mean, it's Clint Eastwood, so it's well made.
Yeah.
And Angelina Jolie is a talented actress, so like it's genuinely creepy. So she this premise of the story is that Angelina Jolie plays a woman who is united with a boy she realizes is not her missing son.
Oh.
So her son goes missing, she's reunited with a young boy, and then she starts to realize, like,
you're not my kid.
This isn't my son. When she tries to demonstrate to the police and authorities, she's vilified, called delusional, labeled an unfit mother, and confined to a psychiatric ward.
Like, you think they would do, like, a DNA test to be like, hey, this is your child.
Well,
I'm guessing they did something like that, and they're saying it is, but she's like, nope, it's not.
So the film is kind of a roundabout way of exploring the themes of, like, child endangerment, female disempowerment, political corruption, and the mistreatment of mental health patients. Mm-hmm. So it's an interesting movie. Not my favorite movie of all time, but it does center around a very popular European folklore, which is the changeling.
Mm-hmm. I was gonna say that's very, very prevalent creature that shows up in one of my favorite books.
So very briefly, if you don't know what it is, changeling is a supernatural entity, often categorized as either a fairy or a troll. That it becomes a substitute for a human child, where the most common is, like, a fairy would take the human child and replace it with a fairy. Mm-hmm. And is often portrayed as kind of sickly or deformed or having, like, slightly odd characteristics. Yep. And can quite often be, like, mischievous or diabolical. They're not there for good.
Yeah.
In general.
One of the books, because it's a series that I like, where a changeling gets replaced with the main character's infant brother with, like, essentially a pile of sticks and leaves that's shaped.
Yes, you told me about this before.
That looks like a child, but none of the other adults can see that it's a child and that it's alive.
Yes.
Only she can. So she's like, my brother's been swapped. They just think the infant brother has been kidnapped and someone put a pile of sticks and stones in the crib as a cruel joke.
Interesting.
But the main character can see that, like, the piles of sticks, and so it's, like, moving and articulate.
Yeah,
it's like a living being,
but it's not the brother.
Yep, so she takes it to go to the Feywild and switch them back.
That sounds like a really good story.
It's very good.
I like it. So this, like I said, this movie has mixed reviews. I looked it up on Rotten Tomatoes. It has a 62% on Rotten Tomatoes, so not a super high rating. However, what's really interesting in the story is the true tale that inspired the story.
Okay.
And that is a story called The Wineville Chicken Coop Murders from Mira Loma, California, and it took place in 1928, and that is what my movie spotlight is on today.
Okay.
So, the Wineville Chicken Coop Murders, also known as the Wineville Chicken Murders, were a series of abductions and murders of young boys that occurred in the city of Los Angeles and in Riverside County, California between 1926 and 1928. So, we're going to dive a little bit into the background of the person who is believed to have committed this crime. Mm-hmm. So, his name is Gordon Stewart Northcott. He was born in Bladworth, Saskatchewan, Canada, and raised in British Columbia, but moved to Los Angeles with his parents in 1924. 2 years later, at the age of 19, Northcott asked his father to purchase a plot of land in the community of Wineville, that's where the name comes from, which is located in Riverside County, where he built a chicken ranch and a house to help his father and his nephew, who was 11 years old at the time. It was under this pretext that Northcott brought the 11-year-old nephew, named Sanford Clark, from Bladworth, where he originally was born, to the U.S., to live at the Wineville Ranch and help him run the chicken farm to help make money for his family. They weren't super wealthy. Mm-hmm. It was at this time that Northcott began to physically and sexually abuse him.
No.
I know. It's not a fun story. It's not a happy story. In August 1928, concerned for the boy's welfare, his sister, named Jessie, visited him at the Wineville Ranch. Clark told her that he feared for his life and that Northcott had murdered 4 boys at this ranch. Upon her return to Canada a week later, Jessie informed an American consul of the crimes. The consul wrote a letter to Los Angeles Police Department detailing the sworn complaint. Because there was initially some concern over an immigration issue, the LAPD contacted the U.S. Immigration Services to determine facts relating to the complaint. Look at this. Due process. What a shocker.
Due process.
Actual, real... Okay, sorry. Soapbox gone. On August 31st, 1928, Immigration Services inspected the ranch, and Northcott, having seen the agents driving up the long road to his ranch, fled into the tree line at the edge of his property, telling Clark to stall them and threatening to shoot him from the tree line with a rifle if he did not comply. This poor child. For the next 2 hours, while Clark stalled, Northcott continued running, Finally, when he felt that the agents could protect him, he told them that Northcott had fled and confessed to all that had happened to him. Northcott and his mother, Sarah Louise, fled to Canada, but were arrested near Vernon, British Columbia on September 19th, 1928. Clark testified at the sentencing that Northcott had kidnapped, molested, beaten, and killed 3 young boys with the help of his mother. Not Mother of the Year.
No.
So, yep. Clark also testified that the murder of a 4th boy, who was a Mexican citizen, is possibly believed his name was Alvin Gothia, but is not officially confirmed. Mm-hmm. Northcott ordered Clark to burn the boy's severed head in a fire pit and crush the skull. Northcott stated there he, quote, left the headless body by the side of the road in La Puente because he had no other place to put it. He stated that quicklime was used for disposal of the remains and the bodies were buried somewhere on the ranch. After this interview, authorities found 3 shallow graves at the ranch in the exact location given by Clark. These graves did not contain complete bodies, but only parts. Clark and his sister, Jessie, testified that Northcott and his mother had exhumed the bodies on the evening of August 4th, a few weeks before Clark was taken into protective custody. They took the bodies to a deserted area where they most likely burned them in the night, and the completed bodies were never recovered.
Darn.
Yeah. The evidence found in the grave consisted of 51 parts of human anatomy, silent evidence of human bones and blood, but have corroborated the testimony of the living witness. So, Wineville changed its name to Mira Loma on November 1st of 1930, largely in part because of the negative publicity surrounding these murders.
Makes sense.
Don't blame them. The new cities of Eastville and Yorupa Valley took different parts of the area in 2010 and 2011, respectively. But Wineville Avenue and Wineville Road and Wineville Park are still provide guidance to where this took place. So Clark did return to Saskatoon, where he died on June 20th, 1991. So he did live a nice long life after surviving this horrific thing. So good for him. But so after all of this took place, the Canadian police did arrest Northcott and his mother on September 19th, 1928. Because of errors in extradition paperwork, though, they were not returned to Los Angeles until November 30th. So it took quite some time to get back to where the crimes were committed. While the 2 were being held, awaiting extradition, his mother confessed to the murders, including the murder of a 9-year-old boy named Walter Collins. But before extradition, she retracted her confession, as did Northcott, who had confessed to killing more than 5 boys. So we don't actually know how many were killed.
It's like, I get frustrated in those situations where they actively confess and it's on record, and then
oh, just kidding.
Never mind.
I lied. Yeah, it's like good lord. So and the frustrating thing is because of that, we don't know how many victims actually suffered at this kid. If we're going based on the boy Clark's testimony, it was 4, but then she said 5. He said 3. What's the truth? Is there ones that the boy Clark didn't know about? I don't know. It's just so sad. But they got what came to them. Yep. After Northcott and his mother had been extradited to California, she again confessed and pleaded guilty to killing Collins. She was not tried because after her plea of guilty, the court and a Judge Morton sentenced her to life imprisonment, sparing her a death sentence because she was a woman.
Okay.
Back then they did that. During her sentencing hearing, she claimed that her son was innocent and offered numerous claims about his parentage, concluding that he was an illegitimate son of an English nobleman, that she was really Gordon's grandmother, that he was a result of incest.
Not an excuse?
Yeah, there's just a lot of you can literally clearly see she's just literally trying to say anything she can say to keep her son from being...
Yeah, it's grasping at straws a little bit.
But come on, let's not protect murderers.
Yeah.
Anyway, she also stated that as a child, that he was abused by her family, and that trying to make an excuse for the way he was, which is quite possible because people who are abused often perpetuate that abuse, but doesn't make it okay.
Nope. I can sympathize for the child that happened to, but I will not excuse the actions that come about from it.
Correct. So after her sentencing, Sarah did attempt to take her own life. begging the authorities to spare her son's life, but after learning that her son would not be spared, she then begged to have her life taken as well. But that was not followed through on. She served her sentence at the state prison and was until she was paroled in 1940, and then died in 1944.
Life in prison.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep. But she died 4 years later, so she didn't get to live much life out on the outside. But she shouldn't have been able to live any. Anyway, as for Gordon, however, he was implicated in the murder of Collins, but because of his mother's confession, he was not sentenced for it. And the state did not prosecute him for that particular murder. Mm-hmm. It was speculated that the Northcott family could have killed as many as 20 boys, but the state of California could not produce evidence to support that allegation. Ultimately, the state brought an indictment against Northcott for the murders of an unidentified underage Mexican national, quote, known as the Headless Mexican, which is an awful name.
Yeah.
And the brothers Louis and Nelson Winslow, ages 12 and 10, respectively. The brothers have been reported missing from Pomona on May 16th, 1928. In early 1929, Northcott's trial was held before Judge George R. Freeman in Riverside County, California. The jury heard that Northcott had kidnapped, molested, tortured, and murdered the Winslow brothers and the unidentified Mexican citizen. And on February 8th, the 27-day trial ended and Northcott was convicted of all three murders. On February 13th, 1929, Freeman sentenced Northcott to death, and Northcott was hanged on October 2nd, 1930, at the San Quentin State Prison at the age of 23 years old.
Dang.
Yep.
That's insane.
Which I find really interesting because somehow this story led to the movie Changeling. Like, it's a direct they directly reference it in the, like, biography of the movie. Like, this is, like, the inspiration story.
Interesting.
But it's, like, and I have not seen the movie in a very long time, so I'm very vague on the details, but I don't remember it containing any of that.
Yeah. Like,
I think the only correlation I can see is, like, the mother in the movie, played by Angelina Jolie, like, does end up in a mental institution, but she's not trying to protect her son. She's trying to convince everybody that he's
not
evil.
Her son.
Yeah. So I don't know. It's very strange. It was kind of a weird,
It's very loose tie.
It was like, this is a weird connection.
Maybe it was more of like the theoretical thing, like, oh, what if this happened? What if one of them escaped and came back, but it wasn't really? There's like one of the like what if questions that sparks from when you hear stories like this.
Don't get anything Changeling related from that story.
Yeah.
But nonetheless, a creepy, horrible murder story regardless.
Bum, bum, bum.
So, agreed. It is more chilling than the actual movie.
Yeah.
But
now that you've read it through it, I think I have heard this story.
Pretty famous.
Yeah. I think I've heard it retold on a couple podcasts that I listened to. So.
Well, and he's probably one of the youngest serial killers of that era. Mm-hmm. I mean, he was 19 when he perpetrated most of these crimes. And he was killed at 23.
Yeah. Ooh.
By hanging, so.
Blech.
Blech. Hopefully your story is less creepy than mine.
Because
this is, like, legit creepy. Like, there's creepy, and then this is, like, actually makes me sick to my stomach creepy.
I feel like that might be up to interpretation of what you think is creepy, because we're getting into the Annabelle doll.
I'm so excited. I love the story of Annabelle. Have you... Okay, well, I have some side comments on this one in a minute.
Yeah. No, more specifically, I'm focusing on... she's going on tour.
She's going on tour. She's
of all
Taylor Swift of the Paranormal Society.
Literally, of all things in 2025, I did not expect a paranormal doll to be making...
Well, not even any paranormal. The Annabelle.
The paranormal doll is making her rounds.
I have also followed this journey on TikTok, and I can add some commentary when you get done with your story here.
Yeah, so... Here we go. The Annabelle doll, a notorious figure in paranormal lore and horror films like The Conjuring, is currently touring the United States as part of the Devils on the Run exhibition. Organized by the New England Society for Psychic Research, or NESPR, the tour began in May of 2025, so very recent, and has already visited several states, including West Virginia and Texas. The exhibition offers attendees a rare opportunity to view the original Raggedy Ann doll, which is said to be possessed by a malevolent spirit. The tour includes stops at historic and allegedly haunted locations, such as the West Virginia State Penitentiary.
Which, I'm sorry, that place is already fucked. We don't need to add her energy to that. That was a wild choice.
Yeah, definitely a choice. The other place it's also been is Victoria's Black Swan Inn in San Antonio, Texas. The event features overnight investigations, lectures from paranormal experts, and opportunities to see the doll under supervision. Attendance has been strong, with several venues selling out of their sessions in advance. So, you thinking you're going to get a same-day ticket?
No, I will confess, though, that she comes nearby, I'm going.
You can...
And I will tell you why in a little bit.
Okay, yeah. That'll be a solo trip for you. I'm not touching that with a 39.
I'm not touching her, but I'm curious.
I'm not touching any of that with a 39.5-foot pole.
Valid. That's valid.
The real Annabelle doll differs significantly from its Hollywood portrayal.
Correct.
Yeah, because if anyone's seen those movies, she's more of like a porcelain China doll.
Like a large, like you'd use for ventriloquism.
Yes, exactly. According to Ed and Lorraine Warren, renowned paranormal investigators, the original doll is a classic Raggedy Ann, which my dad had a Raggedy Andy doll, and my brother inherited that from him, so that was something we played with a lot, and then once I learned about this, I was like, nope.
My mother had a Raggedy Ann doll that looks just like Annabelle.
Nope.
No, thank you.
It's a little unsettling. In the 1970s, it was given to a nurse named Donna, who reported that the doll exhibited strange behaviors, such as moving on its own and leaving messages. The Warrens concluded that the doll was inhabited by a spirit posing as a young girl, and took it into their occult museum in Monroe, Connecticut. After the museum's closure, due to zoning issues, NESPAR, now led by the Warrens' son-in-law, Tony Sepra, began offering limited public viewings of the doll under strict guidelines. Yes. These guidelines include supervised viewing only. The doll is never left unattended and is always under constant supervision by NESPAR staff.
No touchy-touchy.
No physical contact at all. Attendees are not allowed to touch the doll or its protective case.
Also, who would want to?
Yeah, that's like,
That's not... No.
I don't get that.
You don't mess with her.
Yeah, I don't get that urge to touch.
I don't want to touch cursed things. No, I don't need to invite that into my life. Thank you.
If I learned anything from D&D, do not touch the cursed object.
If I looked and learned anything from all my research in the paranormal, you don't touch the cursed objects.
When we open a chest and we find magical items, we detect curse, we detect magic on it. We don't touch the cursed items.
Yeah.
Bad juju.
It's all bad juju. I will say I love Annabelle, though.
Yeah.
I'm an Annabelle fan.
Yeah. More guidelines include limited access, so viewings only occurred during scheduled events, often accompanied by lectures or overnight paranormal investigations. So they kind of limit how often she's exposed to the public, which
probably for the best.
Makes sense. And spiritual precautions are taken as well during these. In some cases, visitors are advised or offered prayers or blessings to protect against any alleged negative energies.
There is a video on TikTok, actually, from this tour where they're in the back of the van with Annabelle and a priest is throwing holy water on her. He's literally like doing a blessing and like protection thing with holy water. It's fascinating. As they're driving through New Orleans.
That's hilarious. You know what makes sense as they're going through New Orleans to want to do that because there's so much energy.
Yeah, the New
in
Orleans
that city
people
alone.
were not happy that she came there. That was one of her stops, and they were not happy.
I'd imagine. They were like, nope, we got enough of that. No more, please.
Yeah, there's a whole thing that happened with that I can fill you in on if you don't have it in here.
The Devils on the Run tour aims to raise funds for the museum's new location and to allow paranormal enthusiasts to witness the infamous doll in person. However, the tour has also sparked controversy. Some religious leaders and paranormal specialists have expressed concerns, stating that treating Annabelle as a novelty could provoke negative spiritual forces. Makes sense. Despite these warnings, the tour continues to attract large crowds and generate significant media attention. The doll's recent appearances have also fueled online speculations and rumors. In May of 2025, reports surfaced allegedly that Annabell had escaped during her visit to New Orleans and was linked to a fire and a jailbreak.
Mm-hmm.
These claims were quickly debunked by Tony Spera, who confirmed that the doll remained under constant supervision and was never out of their control. Despite the reassurances, the rumors contributed to the doll's enduring mystique and public's fascination with her alleged supernatural powers.
Yes, and that fire is what I was talking about. Because very shortly after she left New Orleans, one of the largest and most prominent plantations in Louisiana that is
bad juju.
It's got bad juju in general because of the history of the place and the number of poor slaves that were murdered there and enslaved there. But also, like, they profit off of that as, like, a wedding venue. And that fucker burned to the ground.
Good.
And a lot of people are crediting Annabell with it.
Thank you, Annabell. That'll be the one thing I'll say thank you to her for.
Which is legitimately how, like, I found this is because people are now saying, please send her to Washington, D.C.
Right?
But, okay, so here's why I'm excited about this story. I have followed every inch of this on TikTok the entire time it's been happening. Because one of the people that is traveling with her is Ryan Buell.
Okay.
I have followed Ryan Buell since Paranormal State, which was like early 2000s, like 2004, I think. 2002, something like that, it came out. And he is kind of one of the more well-known paranormal figures in American pop culture.
Yeah.
He's up there with, like, Zach Bagans level.
I'm about to say.
But we don't talk about Zach Bagans, because no. But
No.
Ryan's, like, got a legitimate following, and, like, he's had some sordid history. There was a really not good part of his life where he was addicted and made some poor choices, was arrested. But since he's been back, kind of come back into the paranormal society in the last couple of years, since he's been clean, he's now a therapist and focuses on helping people that are, like, have paranormal experiences and struggle with, like, that kind of stuff, but, like, also, like, is a legitimate therapist. And he started doing TikTok right when this started, and he is touring with Annabell. He was also one of the Lorraine Warren's mentees. So she directly mentored him in his, like, journey with the paranormal.
Cool.
And she appeared in several episodes of Paranormal State with him. So they were, like, friends.
Okay.
So he has been, like, talking about this. So that's how I found out about it, because he's, like, with Annabell. In fact, I have a video of him that I was going to show you, where he's literally, like, swinging on the swing set with the doll from the movie. So they have the prop. That's also touring with Annabell.
Cool.
The prop, the movie. That you can touch that one.
That one I'd be like, okay. It's
but, yeah, so there's been this whole, like, he was, like, one of her closest mentees and closest friends before her passing. And she kind of considered him almost like a son. So, like, a lot of people have been, like, super angry that this is happening. But he did a really good job of, like, explaining, like, hey, like, I know, because people are like, Ed Lorraine said that she's never to be moved. And he's like, actually, that's not true. Like, they would bring her sometimes. He's like, the first time I met Lorraine Warren, Annabell was there at like a talk that they did at a college. And so he's done a really cool, interesting job. So if you're looking for more information on this, go find his TikTok, because he goes, like, in depth on, like, the history of Annabell and how, like, he came to know her, and, like, there's a lot of really interesting information. But I will show you the video of him with the doll. So he's just swinging in New Orleans.
Yep, and that's the doll I
with the
have in my brain.
Movie doll. Yep.
La 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 la.
But yes, one of his last, and he addressed the whole, like, you know, Annabell, quote unquote, going missing. Like, she wasn't. She's back at home in Pennsylvania? Connecticut, thank you. That's where she's going next, is Pennsylvania. I think. But yeah, like, she's back at the museum, and this museum, mind you, like, yes, Annabell is one of the most prominent figures there, but it's Ed and Lorraine's home.
Yeah,
in Connecticut.
Museum.
And they literally, throughout their entire career as paranormal investigators and demonologists, collected the cursed objects that they couldn't stop. And they preserved them in their own personal home.
That's a risk.
Because they didn't want them to harm other people.
That's fair.
And they felt that they could handle them. because it's like what they did and whatever.
Yeah,
like, but it's like
more
a
equipped
really
for it than the average Joe.
But you can go. It is currently closed, and that's part of the reason they're doing this. Is they need it's in a residential area.
Yeah, and technically you can't have that many like people like moving through and parking and whatnot.
So they want to move the museum to a place where it can actually be appreciated by people that are interested in this kind of stuff.
Yeah,
which I think it would be equal parts terrifying, but also kind of cool to go see because there's a lot of like really interesting cursed objects there.
I wonder how they would have to set up like security for that and just.
I would assume it'd have to be like small tour groups. Like you're not going to be left to wander by yourself because or at your own peril. I mean, Darwinism at its finest. If you're stupid enough to steal a cursed object, maybe you would get what's coming to you. I don't know.
Fittest, man.
But I can take us on a deep dive if you really want to down the TikToks with her. But like, yeah, and I've followed Ryan Buell's story from like early days, and I just find him fascinating. I think he's a really interesting character. But yeah,
Love it.
I love Annabell. Send her to DC. Let her take care of business.
Taking care of business. Alrighty.
Alright, should we find out what we're talking about next time?
Yes, let's do it.
Alrighty.
Cards are shuffled. We're ready to go.
I'm not gonna look. Ta-da!
Ta-da!
Ooh, another major arcana.
Okay.
So we got the Hierophant.
Ooh.
So the Hierophant is typically depicted as a figure sitting on a throne or platform, often adorned with religious or ceremonial garments. Imagery often includes religious symbols and two acolytes, representing concepts such as spirituality, tradition, organized religion, and the search for deeper meaning. Upright, it means tradition, conformity, dedication, spirituality, or collaboration. And in reverse, it can mean like missing of those things.
Yeah. Like breaking of tradition, like
breaking of tradition,
like going against the grain.
Yes.
Okay.
So that should be a fun one.
Yeah. Take a picture so I don't forget this time. All right.
Very nice.
Maybe have some fun with that.
That could
especially
be
with traditions. That could get interesting.
I have thoughts already.
Okay. Well, we had some cool creatures that we featured.
We traveled the world.
What in the world?
We asked, what the heck?
In
the world?
And we had a spotlight on some spooky things.
Yes, and finished with one of the most iconic horror villains of all time.
Annabell, she got work to do, man.
She's got some work to do. I believe in you, Annabell. Don't do us wrong. Come through, girl.
Keep it weird, man.
Keep it weird. I feel like Annabell would vibe with this podcast.
Yes.
All of the things that, like, the stories that come from the Annabelle doll, she only hurts people who are bad.
You know what? You're not wrong.
She doesn't go after, like, innocents. Like, she fucks with people that are not nice people. Hardcore.
Yep. Tracks.
So, you know, let her do her thing. I said release the demon. See what happens.
Yep. We'll they F around. They're gonna find out.
Can have a little 2025 V Annabelle deathmatch.
Yeah.
It's like Godzilla versus Mothra.
I mean, we're not even halfway through the year. So.
Almost halfway. We're almost halfway.
We're almost halfway
We're
through
so
this year.
close to halfway.
I don't think my bingo card can hold much more.
I burned mine a long time ago. I gave up. I gave up on everything after the beginning of this year.
Fair enough. Well, things will keep getting weird.
Things will keep getting wild. And so will we.
And so will we. So, we will.
Goodbye.
We'll catch you next time.
Yep. Till next time, I've been Kelly.
I've been Carson.
And keep it weird.
Keep it weird.
Bye.
Bye.